Acho, what are your thoughts on KD's post?
Man, at first I was going to be extremely upset, Marcellus, that I'm over here breaking down a KD tweet. You know, KD, one of the most incredible basketball players of this generation, but also one of the most emotional tweeters of this generation. But then I thought about it and I said, dang, I got to tell on myself, Marcellus, because I drafted a cryptic tweet of my own. The difference is I kept it in my drafts on Twitter. I didn't actually hit send. You see, on August 19th, I say, people get the notoriety and they forget the cause. It was on my heart. I was like, dang, we got a lot of people out here who were moving for something, moving publicly, and then they got a little bit of praise, and they forgot what the heck they were doing it for. So I feel you, KD. I genuinely do, putting it out there. Are you doing it to facilitate growth or become famous? Maybe he's on to something, because I do think there are several, again, imposters. I think there are several people who, like I said, you posted your bikini picture on Monday, your blackout square for Blackout Tuesday on Instagram, then you got back to your swimsuit picture shirtless on Wednesday. I think there are a lot of people who are just doing it to check a box and say they did. But then I had to kick back, Marcellus, and ask myself, does it matter the motivation as long as it gets done? Unfortunately, I had to ask myself that and kind of came to the conclusion. You know, KD, what do you play basketball for? You play for the love of the game. Yeah. Do you play to be the greatest ever? Do you play for the fame? Do you play for the women? Do you play for the accolades? Doesn't matter as long as you play at a high level. So I honestly, when I look at this KD quote, as much as I want to dissect it and twist it and bend it and really get into the nucleus of what does he mean, really, doesn't matter what you're doing it for. Are the owners, Marcellus, are they allowing their arenas to become polling places because they really love the cause and they really love their players? Or, man, I need y'all to get back out there hooping, so we'll do whatever the heck you tell me. Yeah. I don't know if we care. I don't know if we care. I don't know if the motivation matters, Marcellus, as long as the action occurs.
You know, it's interesting just to respond off notes, off the cuff. I think the motivation comes into play for so many people, as we know ourselves the most, is because the motivation really becomes your foundation. Like when all things are considered and you take all the hits, if you weren't motivated properly, you fold because you weren't motivated for it. Think about how fame is a drug. And a lot of people talk about that, and not a lot of people have experienced it. So you can be all in one course, and then fame hits you, and then it takes you off course. And all KD is asking is, are you guys off course? Because if you're off course, you don't know where you're going. So all of these measures will be hollow in totality if you don't know where you're going and you're not doing it with the proper intention, which is a deep analysis for a single line tweet. With that said, that's what I love, man, how KD's giving advice. And KD also has another tweet that I have to get out here, which is more important? Question mark. Getting or letting go? That's his other tweet. Now let's couple and combine these two. Advice, KD is trying to give advice. It's something that you already know, but somebody else got to tell you. And KD is like, let me tell you something right here. Because he's talking to you. And I'm not talking about you singular. I'm talking about you plural. Y'all, if I will. KD's saying when the noise silences, what's going to be left of everything you're doing? Because what we're doing is forgetting what this conversation really is about. In this entire world, in the study of mankind, in the study of all civilizations, there's one underlying common denominator with all of those situations.
What's that?
The haves and have-nots, the quest for power. And then from that quest of power creates story, because those with power have a story and those without power certainly tell a story. And that story covers the spectrum from prosperity to despair. And that all of a sudden fragments into conversations that leads to the story that comforts you, that motivates you, that excites you. And what those stories are come down in constructs like religion. What those stories are come down in constructs like racism, sexism, classism, colorism, all the isms. But if you look and study this world, it's amazing how all of this is really just a quest of power, not just money. Because I think a lot of times people hear money and they turn away, their hair's raised. I remember hearing the comment, discontent for money is just a trick of the rich to keep the poor without it. And I know I grew up with that discontent for money. No, I'm doing it for something deeper. And then you start to realize as you grow in this world that the deepest thing that you're doing something for is to not only help you and yours, but help all, but have something to hand off. And I think what KD is trying to say in a cryptic way is, are y'all doing something that's going to be not only beneficial to you and yours, to the cause, but something that's going to translate? Because we are now watching the poaching of the golden goose. We're watching guys who have worked their entire life to get to a place where they can actually offer themselves to the conversation of power. And now they're getting that close to that conversation, and they're starting to get into another lane that they don't have enough experience and enough levity to bring it into. Bring in Slick Rick the Bucher for this one. Slick Rick, what are your thoughts on Kevin Durant's post?
I'm still trying to figure out why and what the purpose of the post was. My first thoughts were, so whose motives is he questioning, and why is he questioning them? Because clearly he's questioning somebody's motives. And I went to read the comments, and a lot of the people reading this didn't take it as a question about the NBA players' motives that are playing in the bubble, but their own motives in terms of why are you doing what you're doing? Are you doing it to facilitate growth, or are you doing it for your personal gain? And the problem that I have with this, and you just mentioned it, Marcellus, and you touched on it, Acho, is that first and foremost, it doesn't matter whose motives he's questioning. I don't care. Like, KD, you're not playing right now. And if this is supposed to be contributing somehow to the positive, to the growth, your accusation or question about motives, how is it contributing to that? If it is about the players who are playing right now, the fact of the matter is they are doing what they are fulfilling their profession. They are doing what they have been hired to do. So whatever it is that you have to say about what they're doing, yay or nay, the reason that I'm aware of you, Kevin Durant, the reason that anybody would follow you is because you are a basketball player, not because you're a social activist, not because you're a gossip, Ann Landers, I'm dating myself here. You're a gossip columnist who provides advice to people. It's because you play the game. And when you're not playing the game, then I'm sorry, your voice and the significance of what you're saying does not carry the same weight for me. And that's not to say that his opinion isn't meaningful, but I feel as if we've gotten into this place now, and you mentioned it, Marcellus, there's just pressure now to be more than one thing. And I'm reminded of Russell Westbrook posted something on Instagram about serving my community is that's all that matters. That's the most important thing. Well, I just wonder, have players lost sight of the fact that we are recognizing them, we're aware of them because they're professional athletes, and we care about them because of the way they play the game. And if you want to do that, and you want to have some other pursuit, and you want to pursue social activism, and you want to utilize, I'm all for that. But don't mistake that there are two parts to this, and that I don't know that you can disconnect the two. I became aware of Kevin Durant. I got to know Kevin Durant because he's a basketball player. If you take that away, now I've got to reset. Okay, now it's not a matter of, well, I cared about him as a basketball player, so now I care about everything. It's, okay, now he's this other thing. Is he the guy that I want to follow and listen to and is the best figure for me in terms of going this other direction? You're asking a complete change of direction for me on that. And all those people out there that are uncomfortable with that, I guess I understand that. Look, is there a problem in this country? For sure there's a problem in this country. My question, whether it's with Kevin Durant or it's the players in the bubble, is how do we best deal with it and attack it and try to solve it?
Slick, to your point, because you bring up that word is solve. What I cannot stand and I utterly despise in life, on Twitter and anything in general. Don't bring up problems unless you're going to bring up solutions. Don't sit here and say, I can't stand this or I can't stand that if you don't have a solution for me. Now, what I do understand, though, to a degree, remember, KD's close friend, Kyrie Irving, before the bubble began again, Kyrie was like, look, y'all go back and play. You're just going to be a distraction from the cause. Kyrie, if we're being honest, he called this shot a long time ago, several months ago before this all started. And now looking back, Kyrie was in fact right. The NBA has been an escape, but has it been a necessary escape when there has been more necessary issues at hand? Maybe KD is sitting here saying, look now, we knew what was going to happen. Y'all knew exactly what was going to happen, which is the NBA does fall second in line to social justice, to lives being jeopardized based on the color of skin. And yet now, all of a sudden, now that it is in, now that it is popular to take the stand, now y'all want to take the stand? Well, Kyrie had already told y'all. So maybe there's some truth to, maybe KD is speaking from a place of, look, we already knew what was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen. We called this shot. Y'all ignored this shot. And now that it is, quote unquote, in, everybody is raising their voice. Everybody's making statements. That's where he could be coming from. But I do agree with you, Slick. My biggest thing, don't sit here and present problems, KD, unless you're also going to present a solution, because there is still work being done. And this is not contributing to the work.
The beauty of a cryptic tweet, the beauty of what Kevin Durant just did, threw that rock out there and hid them hands, is he can deny whatever we're going to say about it, and he can accept what he wants to. Or he can just sit there and say nothing and say, y'all reading too much into it. There's an art to what he just did here, and I'm not going to let that get by me. With that said, I think what Kevin Durant is really saying, my opinion, is how a lot of times we have to unlearn a lot of our behaviors and our mindsets and focus, or in many cases, refocus on the task at hand. Because the real question is this really for change or is this for clout? And Kevin Durant doesn't want to say the names. He wants your guilt to push you out and make you tell on yourself. I always push back on people who always say, if you don't have any solutions, like Acho just did. I push back because in this world, there are no solutions. There are just trade-offs. There's not legislation that will ever be passed that will eradicate all evils. And it's amazing how we want to slice and dice evils based on what we feel instead of what the reality is. Here's one example. If you grow up and you're dealing with evil from your own kind, that's just called hating. But if you're dealing with evil from another kind, that's called racism. But last time I checked, evil is evil. Now let's get into some numbers, because people could get lost in conjecture and rhetoric. How about that in the last 5 years, over 42,000 of us have been killed by homicide, which is a top 10 leading cause of death for us, but not for the general population. And then KD is sitting there, as I sit there, and say, but there have been 50 police killings of unarmed black men. So 42,000 plus versus 50. But as Acho pointed out in previous segments, there was a time where if you stood for the anthem, you were right. Now, if you sit for the anthem, you're right. And it's just swaying in public perception. And what KD is trying to say, I think, is grab a hold of yourself and don't get lost in the sauce of what the public is saying, and really do it for deeper intentions than just for likes and followers, for clicks, for the post. As Acho compared post to post to show people's contradictions, I am blessed enough to actually know a lot of these people. And I compare their posts to their reality. And I sit there and scratch my head, amazed at the deception that they're portraying to the public. And we just continue in the masses to follow those same people. But if the blind is leading the blind, the real question is, where are you going?